So Catching Up is a show that exists. I can confirm that. Yeah, I've got literally no better way to start the video. So around 6 months ago, a new independent animation pilot dropped called Catching Up, which wasn't really all too special. I mean, indie pilots drop all the time in this day and age. We're living in the best timeline. But there was one key difference with this one. This one was made by someone I actually knew. Yes, this pilot was made by one LS Mark, a popular YouTuber known for his quite critical content about other popular media. In fact, I'm quite a fan of his content. He just has this way of writing that strikes the right parts of my brain. It's like alcohol. It's an addiction. So why not give him some cash to make a cartoon himself and watch him become the thing he despises so much? So the end result was Catching Up. And I'm here to decide for you whether or not you should risk your hard-earned time watching this junk. But come on, you read the title, you know where this is going. I found out about the show mostly through Twitter, but I never actually bothered to watch the video until I decided to make this video. And my Twitter that day was full of people praising the show and talking about how good it is. And then the Kickstarter came out, and then people talked about it even more. And then Scott the Wars was revealed to be in episode 2, which got people even more stoked. And then nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. No fanfare, no nothing. Even though the show hasn't really gotten any updates besides the Kickstarter exclusive blogs, I would expect a little more of an active community behind this show, but no, nothing. It feels like it died the moment they stopped putting out public announcements without any fanfare at all. So, why is that? Did the show secretly suck? Again, you read the title, so I think you know what the answer is. But before we get into the negatives, I think we should probably get into the positives about the show. Yes, there are things I do like about the show, contrary to popular belief. First of all, the animation is stellar. Whilst it does have some problems, which I'll get into a bit, the animation is all around fluid, with a unique, clearly defined art style of fat outlines and shaders to call its own. I especially like the backgrounds, they're really well done and detailed. Another thing that seems to have resonated with people is the relatability of one of the main protagonists, Clay, of which I do see, and it really enhances his character, and a lot of his antics and written dialogue really feels like something someone would actually go through and think in a situation like this, especially during the moments where he's thinking to himself. But to avoid giving him poverty syndrome, they give him an actual personality, that of him being introverted and grumpy, but deep down is a pretty nice guy, which makes for a nice change of pace. Where everything built up to that point culminates and results in Clay revealing his hidden persona. It was a really good way to end the episode and left a good taste in my mouth. But also, when I first saw this part, I thought Clay had pissed into the bottle. I don't know why I thought that, it was 2 in the morning, give me a break. Oh yeah, and Michael Kovac is in it. He just kinda sounds like Michael Kovacs, but grumpy. That, unfortunately, is where the positives end. Now, onto the part you all came here for. The mindless bitching. The first thing on my mind is the fact that the animation, despite looking really good and fluid for the most part, is really inconsistent. It always feels like it can never decide how thick the outline should be on the characters, with constantly fluctuating on how big or small it should be. It generally sticks to a consistent theme of big outline with small outline details, but apart from that, it's completely random on how thick the outline will be or how small the outline will be on the details the characters are. The background characters as well, whilst generally sticking to a consistent theme, can also heavily vary in character design. You know, not all of them being of the same general style as Clay or the Mousefucker. I never bothered to learn his name. The pacing is probably the worst offender out of everything in this pilot. It's just so on or off. Most of the episode is spent in just one singular location, aka the club, which is fine, you know? You don't really need to vary locations all too much as long as the episode stays interesting. But the time spent in other locations or just general scenes differs incredibly. There's no real flow to it all, it just kind of feels like we spend whatever time Mark was willing to give the scene, giving the whole pilot a lack of cohesion. If I told you that the pilot opens with Clay being at school, you'd think we'd spend a reasonable amount of time here. You know, not too much, but just enough for it to be an exposition of sorts. I'd probably take up around at least a minute and a half, 46 seconds. That's how long we spend at the school. Wow, Mark, you really couldn't trim out a few club scenes and fit in a few more American high school cliches? Like, yeah, it would have been pretty bad, but at least it would make the whole thing feel more cohesive. It's like this throughout the entire pilot as well, with some scenes being really overly dwelled on, and some scenes going by really fast. I know it's minor, but it just makes the pilot feel generally harder to watch. The show's jokes also rely on long, awkward pauses, which worked the first few times, but after a while they just became stale and just come off as boring. Which sucks because this is like half of the jokes, I'm not kidding. They rely on this way too much. The last issue I'd like to talk about is one that I grasped onto, but I don't think a lot of other people have. And that is, I'm not even really sure what this show is trying to be most of the time. You see, the show feels like it kinda has a premise of something you'd see on Adult Swim, if a little turned down compared to that. With the general plot being about two young lads going clubbing, and you know, swearing. But the jokes and writing style felt like it was written for 9-year-olds or something. It has swearing in it! Making the show fall into this kind of weird limbo state, where I can't say it would appeal to kids because of all of the swearing and adult themes in the show, but I can't say it appeals to adults either because the writing is too simple and boring, so it ends up appealing to neither. And before you could say it appeals to teens, I'm a teen, and I didn't really enjoy it. So there. Overall, Catching Up feels like a show that has potential to be good, you know, with an interesting concept and great animation, but it just falls flat in so many areas to the point where I can't really recommend you to watch it. Maybe it'll pick up in the second episode if Mark listens to feedback, but as it currently stands, Catching Up is currently one to skip out on. And due to all the praise it got upon release, to me it feels really underwhelming, and as of now, for me, the biggest disappointment in indie animation, or at least that I've watched. But that'll probably change when I watch Oliver Boss.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name. But I'm afraid you've been misinformed. You are not here to receive a gift, nor have you been called here by the individual you assume, although you have indeed been called. You have all been called here, into a labyrinth of sounds and smells, misdirection, and misfortune. A labyrinth with no exit. A maze with no prize. You don't even realize